No, who's that?
Have you? Okay, so he's a Qigong master that actually lived in Petaluma. And it was at one of his retreats, I had a very profound awakening. And after that awakening, I started receiving a call to do this. I went into spontaneous shamanic journeys, which I'd never even heard of. So I was inspired. But anyways, long story short, it led me to the understanding that God was also female, which was a big breakthrough for me because I was raised Lutheran. and
Yeah.
and I started to research and I thought, well, I need to get through to people about this. Now, you already know about the divine feminine, right? People like you already are doing all this for many, many years.
Yeah,
But,
these are some of my dear friends.
but, but everybody here, but the Trumpsters, all the right-wing Christians, are completely unaware what was done to the Bible. So I researched that so that I could their language too. It's really meant for us as well, our community. It's a very beautiful
Right.
book. But anyways, long story short, I wanted to include their language and show solid proof what was done in the Bible, and then how it affected the entire planet. And so 2/3 of the book just incorporates what was done to the planet, what we need to do now to get her back. So
Yeah.
so it's called Holy Spirit Rising, the vital return of our divine mother for the healing
The
of our
Holy
planet.
Spirit being the feminine
Yeah,
emanation of.
because she goes by many names: Holy Spirit, Shekinah, Sophia, Lady
Right.
Wisdom. It's all the same. Ashira, it's all the same. And in Eastern religions, she has other names, but it's all the same. It's the mother aspect of God,
Yeah.
the feminine, right? So, anyways, that was it. It was supposed to take me like 6 months during COVID, and it took me 4.5 years.
Wow.
And Sylvia, is this a book or a film or both?
It's a book, and it's on Amazon. So, and a real exciting thing that happened is that Harvard University is at their bookstore.
Oh, great.
Because it's very plain English. But yeah, so that hopefully it'll influence some of the scholars there. That was the whole point, as I was trying to get outside of our group and include, some of the people that really need to hear it.
Exactly.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
It's interesting that you say that because Friday night I was talking to a couple of my neighbors, and I don't usually just get into religion and politics, I deal with them. But this one lady started talking about the Bible, and I started trying to explain to her about how the Bible was put together. And she was like, well, and I told her about the Nicene Council and all of that other stuff, and she did not want to hear it. And I was like, this is the history of these different books. She said, well, I realized, she said, I know these books were inspired by God. I said, but somebody had to put the books together. And you go back and she's like, well, is it in the Bible, that is telling that? I'm like, no, but it's so hard to get through people that don't even want to be open-minded enough to even study the history.
They don't want to hear it. It's because the guys in charge won't admit to any of it. There's a Duke University, a female scholar, a young woman in her 20s. She was studying a papyrus, an ancient, the oldest papyrus of John, I think. And she could see how they scratched out with Mary Magdalene's name, and put in Martha, so that she wasn't so prevalent in that gospel, so she didn't look so important. And she could see it, and she pointed it out. And they admit that's what happened, but they explained it away.
Right.
Martha was put over Mary Magdalene's name. And she didn't even belong in that gospel, by the way. So she proved that there was tampering. And he thought, hallelujah, this is going to change the world. No, you can look it up online. A Duke University scholar, discovers tampering with Mary Magdalene in the Bible. And you can see it there, but they explained it away and admitted nothing.
Well, I've been so passionate, and this part of what I'm going to talk about today, I'm going to indulge you guys. And some of you know my mystical, magical stories, and some of you don't. And so it'll be fun to I sort of like put a collage together of my magical, mystical experiences that I've had
It's great, Christy. That's
over
wonderful.
over the years because I'm 75 and I gotta document, this,
Yep.
especially because I want my granddaughters to. My daughter's pregnant now with number 4.
Oh
Christy,
my,
I couldn't believe it when I read that.
Yeah.
that is so,
What is going on?
Well, she's really like, it's the kind of the thing I've heard this phenomena with single raised children, they didn't have any siblings and boy, they want siblings. She is so happy to have her children having siblings and
oh,
she got the best possible combination because the oldest boy is 10 and then the girl is 4. She just turned 5. No, she's turning 5 in December. She's 4. And then so when she came on the scene, she just adores her older brother and she looks up to him and he's like, wow, he's like this little Imuna who just broke her leg this
Mm.
year. And wow, that was a trauma to the family because it's like I didn't know that they can't medicate for pain children that age.
No.
So
Mm.
old is
so
she?
she's
How,
2. She just turned 2.
that I broke my leg. That is so crazy. My mom
Yeah.
told at Bloom's, remember Blum's or Bloom's in San Francisco was some sort of a store. I slipped on some water, but I came out of it fine. But yeah, I remember hearing that story too. That's really
Well,
crazy.
they couldn't, and she was such a trooper, she's the kind of that they when they go to the fairs and things like she's like off running and wanting to meet everybody and they're like, no, you can't. You have to hold on here. You can't just take off. And she's like not even looking back like, where's mama? She's whereas the other one is really super attached, although she's starting to now get
What sign is she?
they're both daddy's girls.
What
So
horoscope? The one that always takes off. I'm curious.
the 2-year-old.
Yeah, but what horoscope sign is she?
Oh, well, she was born July 9th. So that
Is that Cancer? No,
yeah,
is it?
I might be. I don't really know.
Yeah,
So,
that is. Well, I guess Marianne Williamson's a Cancer. She's,
yeah.
Powerball.
So
I love.
Jen, how are you doing there? Did you buy your new retreat home or are you
Now,
still looking or
we're just always looking and we're keeping a profile of properties. And just as this last week, 40 acres of a 7-acre retreat lodge looked turnkey and perfect with the proposal with the owner. But his attorney got in the mix and put fear into him. And so when you say how these men make these decisions, these recalcitrant males based on the fear-based reality, I just feel like work for months that I put into that, creating the dream team, the potentials. It was such a beautiful dream. But I, I think the social systems aren't quite ready to meet the divine feminine and the purity, the practicality, the clarity we have for projects and programs. And they just keep pulling the plug, cutting everything that we need to move things forward. And that's frustrating. That part is frustrating for me, but I say, well, okay, so maybe this property won't work. But then I brought another male in who has a lot of money coming in and is a great guy. And I said, well, maybe this could move it forward. So we're going to build a Divine Feminine Center, educational living in sustainable harmony center somewhere. So I say this or better, but there were so many signs and synchronicities. It was just amazing. And it's not over yet, but the gentleman
yeah.
has 2 offers coming in on top of our proposal, which does fulfill his father's and his own legacy. So this
Oh,
gentleman has to heart versus attorney in fear. So that same thing is playing out in so many ways in my life where I see it. Heart-centered versus the old fear, and it's playing out in politics. You know, going back to the 50s where we're supposedly safe and everything was safe and sound and security. So we're moving the dial as a divine feminine. You know, it's not easy, but we have to be courageous, keep saying the truth, thinking of the creative potentials that, you know, can move forward. But what I'm really learning is this my own sense of empowerment is what can hold the field with no fear. And it's getting my masculine and my backbone into my voice and holding it in a way that actually I can sit at the table of power and play it like a chess game. And I could sit with this gentleman after talking to his attorney and say, actually, look at this and this and this. So I do that when it's worth it or I feel like there's really a chance. But you know, I've had a lot of practice working with alpha males and control freaks. So,
you're the master.
so I've really
My
learned
hat's
a
off to you.
lot about moving the power and the chess game uh, towards what is right and true and the divine feminine core
Mhm.
thing is for us to bring this heart-centered, and the world in many ways is getting there, but baby steps. But it wouldn't get there unless we were doing this work on and on and on. And so today I thought, well, what should I do to honor Christy? And I started thinking of the programs that we've done
Oh my God, we've
and the
done so
depth,
many.
and some thin and some thick and some wild. There were circuses there. There was learning boundaries. There was defining what's truly a priestess and what's the dark priestess. And I mean, it was quite phenomenal. And since there's just a few of us, because Christy, I think what I realized is, Christy, you know all of my most significant moving parts for me of who I am, this planet, what I'm doing. Not too many people I feel safe to express and work that with. And then you encourage me to come out and do certain things with you. But you're a game changer. I mean, I wouldn't have stepped forward to do all those Ave Marias, all those things where sometimes I didn't feel too safe, even in the Divine Feminine community. And you said, oh,
Yeah.
come on, Jan, come on. So yeah, we're definitely a touch team, and that's why I picked this today because it represents a slice of the pie of what just you and I have created, and you've created with all these other women on the call. And if you would have seen me earlier, I had Marionberry pie in my teeth, and I said I'm going to heat up this Oregon berry pie, and I'm going to eat it, and I'm going to think of Christy and I and her birthday. And so I did, and I ate a lot. So
Well,
anyway,
we've got some rich women here on the call that are very devoted to the divine feminine. And Joanna has been in conscious business, and she has extended herself into the tentacles of
wow.
various groups and organizations that she has played with that have been exploring what would it be, what would it mean to have conscious business, which would have to incorporate some feminine principles. It's like, I don't know, but
It-
Jan's been going around the country in her little red gypsy caravan that she bought and built and made over into this most delightful and joyous thing. And she drives it around the country,
Oh,
going
wow.
from one woman's circle to the next. So when she came into town, we had a woman's circle, and we did a flower mandala at that circle. And it you one lady brought a whole basket full of flowers from her garden, and then everybody was like, they were like busy bees hovering around and putting it together,
So beautiful.
making the flower mandala. I'll just send it to you guys in an email later so you can see it. But we were so happy. It was like so much joy arose from just putting flower mandalas together. It was
Well, Christy, I really, really admire you so much, and I'm happy to meet all of your friends and colleagues and people that you have been doing this together with for so many years and decades, because I remember the beginning very, very well. And you have just done an outstanding job of just bringing this divine feminine light from like a little tiny acorn into this huge oak tree, is how it feels like to me. And that your willingness to commit your life to it no matter what is what I really have seen from you, and that you've absolutely made it your life's work, and it shows. I mean, it's, my gosh, all the people that you've touched and the programs that you've done and the films that you've created so that it's documented for those who come after us. I mean, I think that's just really, really, really phenomenal. So
Yeah, thank you.
congratulations, and getting to 75 with all of this under you that you've accomplished is really, really a huge feat. So
You know,
congratulations, my friend.
thank you, dear.
Yeah. I have one other thing before I forget. I just wanted to say to Sylvia, is that okay?
Yeah.
Sylvia, I wanted to tell you, if you haven't already come across Rabbi Leah Novick,
What
I
is it?
put, her name is Rabbi Leah, Leah
Mhm.
Novick. I put her book and website in the chat for you. I just put it to you, but if anyone else wants it, I can put it to everybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
But she writes about the divine feminine from the Kabbalah perspective and from Judaism.
Which
And so she, she's just a brilliant, brilliant woman. She's now in her 90s and still
Wow.
going strong. And she's quite something. And her book is called On the Wings of Shekhinah. And she has given all kinds of classes and has documented this and has done a lot of work with divine feminine in Judaism. And if you go to her website, you will see what her life's work is. And I thought you might be interested in incorporating
yeah,
that with Magdalene.
I'd be very interested. I'm just going to show you. This is my book right here, and the foreword is by Anne Baring. Have you heard of her?
Mm-mm.
She also does the work with the Shekinah,
Mm-hmm.
and is remarkable. She's written 8 books,
Oh,
including
wow.
Cosmos, and that one, the one that was so popular, I want to say 20 years ago, because she's 90 as well,
Mm-hmm.
about the feminine goddess. So she kind of opened up the doors with that as well, and she became my mentor some years
Oh,
ago. And when I contacted her after my visions, and so I've been working with her, but I'm like a sponge. I'll read anything.
would you put her name on?
Good.
So Sylvia, uh,
Yeah.
um, I'm kicking up a project to do more interviews. I've done them in the past. I had a TV show, but we're starting the She Said talks instead of TED Talks.
Oh,
And
nice.
so let's interview you about your book in the
Oh,
next
sure. I
couple of
love
weeks.
that.
Okay.
Yes, it did come
Oh,
through.
yay, I'm learning. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah,
Holy
interview.
Spirit rising. Yeah.
Hey,
So
Christy, do you have one of my my card deck? To be the light divine alchemy cards?
I don't think so. The new
Oh,
one. No, no. I have your little altar box,
no,
which
no.
is
You
like a
need a deck of cards because you could use them in ceremonies and things.
yes,
oh,
absolutely.
getting presents.
So I'll mail that to you too.
All right.
Yeah,
Uh,
that sounds wonderful. I didn't know you made cards, Jan.
I
Janice.
I put them out there, but I pulled them back because we my partner's best friend is a Hollywood media person, and he's connecting with Raul, who does, you know, gorgeous Star Wars coffee table books, things. So there's a potential they can be picked up. So I stopped marketing them, but I have a few of them left for special gifts. I really don't want to even sell them. Um, and So,
Yeah.
so that's big.
Uh,
That might be produced globally. I mean,
that's huge.
that's a big leap. Yeah. And you know, Hollywood publicists are talks about
Galia.
it, so
Yeah.
hopefully
Yeah.
it'll happen real soon.
All right.
Fingers-
She's getting her drink and going to join us. Galia is my fairy godmother. And
With pleasure.
yes, and she sang at my feast day, online feast day celebration, which is now up on my website. So if you on the homepage, if you just scroll down, you'll find the replay link. And the feedback, I got somebody who hadn't heard her sing her wonderful song about, you know,
She changes everything
everything
she
she
touches.
touches, and everything she touches changes.
Changes. That's the
So,
goddess, and that's you too, Christy.
oh boy, I tell you, and it's
That's
really,
you.
I'm going to start here in about 1 minute, my talk that I want to give. But before I do, I just have to say, because people think, that I just automatically do Easter, Magdalene Moonrise Service, and the feast day, and all this stuff, and the truth is, I don't. I do it only if I receive a vision. And this year, feast day was on July 22nd, and I hadn't gotten a vision, and I got all wrapped up in the drama of my life and everything that's going on, getting older and all of that. So I didn't even think to stop and meditate on it and be in the question. And some of you may know this story, but some people don't. I went um, um, into the hospital Memorial Day weekend for 2 days, and I was in extreme level 10 pain, and I couldn't walk from my bed to the bathroom, and it was like un- unbelievable. And
Well,
so I well, this is the thing. I called the ambulance. I went to the hospital. They ran MRIs, CAT scans, blood tests, urine tests. I mean, all kinds of things, trying to figure out what was going on. And then they came back 2 days later and they said, "Well, we're releasing you. Here's a bag of pills. Don't get addicted or kill yourself with them." And we don't know why this is happening. And so I went home, and I thought, I did the Dr. Joe Dispenza Meet Mary Magdalene. And so he's talking about getting up into that gamma brainwave state will release the hormones that create healing. So I thought, well, at least I should try that before I do. So that's what I did. I sat in meditation, and I got up into the gamma brainwave state. I was just in bliss. It was so fun.
wow.
And once I reached that sweet spot, suddenly it's like my crown chakra blew open, and I started receiving this massive download about, the vision for the Magdalene feast day. So I grabbed my note paper and I started writing it as fast as I could because it was pouring in, right?
Mm.
And as soon as I wrote the last sentence and dotted the dot at the period at the end of the sentence, poof, the pain was gone. And I went, "No, this is not possible. How is this possible?" I was like,
Wow.
because I was like, you know, I had been on morphine all weekend, so I was like an 8 instead of a 10. But I was like, "Whoa, what's happening here? How does this, just disappear like that instantly?" And so I got up and I started dancing around the room to see,
Oh my
but very
Even the-
carefully, right?
even need
Try
a
this
wand.
step, a little jiggle here, a little wiggle there, to see if, and it was gone. It was gone. And I
Wow.
was like,
We're
"Oh, hallelujah."
Oh, yay.
And
Yeah.
I had the vision, so I had to go through with it, and I did it, and it was really great. So, and then afterwards I realized, I hadn't really been in the inquiry, in the question of what would you have me do? And she's been bugging me to teach a class called Taking a Peek Behind the Veil. which I need to teach it with you, Jan, because you're a great behind the veil person. Some people have that. I don't think of myself so much of that, but anyway. So let me begin. Thank you for being here to witness to my life. We're going to try to go through 74 years very quickly. I don't know. You have to get up and get some um uh let me
And before you do that, not to interrupt, I'm
yeah.
interrupting your flow, but your birthday was actually yesterday, right? And did you
Yes,
have a nice day?
I
Were
did.
you
I had
celebrated by your family?
no, my family's out of town, so I'm not doing anything with them until next weekend when they
Mhm.
come back. They're up in Oregon at a film festival thing. Ah,
Mm.
something happened. Oh, my
So,
thing's
so,
closed down.
so Christy, could I just sing a tiny little thing before you put your movie on?
You certainly can.
Okay, this is for you, babe.
All right.
And for all these magnificent women surrounding us. Older, wiser, deeper, lighter, as summer and winter pass us by. Older, wiser, deeper, lighter, as summer and winter passes by.
Thank you.
Older,
Thank you.
wiser, deeper, lighter.
Deeper, lighter.
You.
All
Nice.
right.
And that's us.
Thank you, dear. Bless you.
So Christy, before
Yeah.
you get started, since Gayla sang that song, I thought, well, what could I offer? I couldn't find my book, but I sang this song and I wrote the words, Mary Magdalene. It's a Mary Magdalene song, as above, so below. You remember it. I used to sing it all the time. But at the beginning of it, I remember in the recording studio, it just burst forth, and you've probably heard this before recorded, but you're the leader of women saying this now. So I want to say it so that we all are honoring you as a person who's taken the platform to do this. So we take a breath through our nose and out through our mouth, and we stand in this new power that we have generated on earth with your beautiful leadership. And these are the words: I now break my silence and reclaim my divine role. I ask for forgiveness for silence for 2,000 years. As I now stand before you, I reveal without fear my role in the great mysteries as a woman anointed with Christed light.
Oh,
So I
That's
enrobe you in that.
Wow, that is powerful, Jan. Very powerful.
Wow,
yeah.
very powerful.
That's what we're
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah. I have to spray myself with this is the Mary Magdalene spray.
Oh, it's not a
As,
bottle of wine? Oh no.
no, it's from Ingrid Aru. She's from Germany and she makes this master essence. But
You say Ingrid?
yeah, Ingrid. She's from
Her. And whenever I hear her name, I know she's present. My mother, who passed away, Ingrid.
oh,
Yeah,
all
so
right.
let me know she's here.
Mary Magdalene.
Yeah.
Wow. Where did you get that, Christy?
This is she gifted it to me because she knows I'm devoted to this Magdalene work, and so
Oh.
she came through town, and that's one thing I was just reading that somebody said that when you really do what is your passion, then what ends up happening is prosperity naturally comes. Jan wants to give me her cards, Sylvia is gifting me her book, so it's like that's what happens out of that. So
Mm.
it's a beautiful, I feel like I have to anoint myself now.
Really beautiful.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
It is. It is.
this is
Yeah.
this is Jan's little goddess box
Oh,
Oh
that
my
she made
gosh.
for me.
oh
And
my
and
goodness.
Wow.
then Mother Mary moves over,
Oh, how beautiful.
Oh, oh.
and underneath her is another picture painting. So
This is so beautiful.
I
Oh my
know
goodness.
she made this is her creativity, you know. She makes all these little,
Multi-talented women, my
My,
goodness.
I
oh
know.
my. Oh,
And
wow.
then in
Wow.
honor of my daughter, who they were trying to get on, but I understand where they are, is there's no Wi-Fi. They're out at one of those sing-along camp retreat things. And so a friend of mine managed to text me and said she's there, and he said there's no Wi-Fi. So maybe they'll be able to come jump on a little later. But this is the candle that she brought from the caves of Lost St. Balm. When she took her, they took the baby girls and they carried them all the way up. It's an hour hike straight up to the
Oh my gosh.
caves. And then she bought me the rosary from Lost St. Balm, which has the Magdalene there. And then at the end of it was a cross, but I took the cross off and I have a
A heart.
heart, a rose quartz heart.
Beautiful.
And then in the Magdalene Easter thing, I gave my grandson a rose quartz heart. So I'm gonna light this candle in honor of her. And
Mm.
she went to France because Magdalene came to her in a dream and said, "You need to come and do the pilgrimage to Lost St. Balm." And so they packed up everything up. 4 months later, they were off to France, and
Wow.
so
Mm.
thank you. Yeah, she
Like mother,
she
like daughter.
well, you know, I've been working on it, but you know, we've both been passionate about healing our dysfunctional family lineage, of which I'm finding out more and more as I dig into my ancestral lines. The Swedish side of me, which I've been told by the Norwegian side, we don't talk about the Swede. And then I just discovered in doing research to prepare for this thing that I also am part Irish. And
Yay.
we don't talk about the Irish either. So no, but I'm doing my genealogy tree and I'm going, wait a minute, that, and there it is in the records, Irish. And my cousins were my uncle, no, I guess my grandmother's brothers, that whole line, there's Irish there. So
How are you finding this out? Are you doing 23andMe or something like that?
no, I haven't done 23. I do want to do that because as you'll see in what I share with you, one of the mystical things that happened to me is finding
Mhm.
about these ancestors. And you know, when I get a vision to do the Magdalene work, I'm like a crazy woman. I have to do it. I can't not do it. I just become totally obsessed, but I also become infused with the transmission of the words and the vibration that really invites people in. So I'm going to share this, and then Karen, when we end, uh, Carolina has written a tribute song to Kamala, and then after that, I would love for you to sing your song because I'm going to end on Kamala and some information that I received about Kamala Harris. So, if you can let me quickly go through this, I just want to document 75 years in, hopefully.
Mm.
Yes.
All right, great. So we had all these boy
Oh.
babies, and finally my parents had a girl, and that was me. So I have all these
Aw.
older brothers,
So
Chris-
cute.
Chris- Christopher died of mysterious death disease, so he didn't have a very long life. And Robert and
Say
Nestle.
that again. Say that again, Christy. Something I.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, but that was a
Okay.
little muted. What
Okay.
did you just say about not a long life?
Christopher was mysterious croup death disease. He died.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So there was the first trauma, and his brother Nestle is a year older than him, and they have a different father.
Mm-hmm.
And then John was my dad's son from a previous marriage. So when my mom and dad got married, then they had my brother Robert, and then 18 months later they had me. So within the first 2 years of their marriage, they became a family of 6.
Oh my
Mm.
goodness.
With John was very traumatized because his mother was in a mental institution for alcoholism, because back in those days they didn't have AA, and she was committed. And my dad was also a pretty rip-roaring alcoholic as well. So, and my grandfather, his father, my dad's dad, was the pharmacist with a local drug dealer in Savannah, Illinois.
Whoa.
So he gave the he gave the he dispensed all the drugs to the family. You know, my grandmother was opiate addicted. So anyway, I wanted to start with this because this Marianne Williamson's quote is just like so apropos for my experience. And of course, you know, my whole thing is about revealing what has been suppressed. And a lot of people attribute Marianne Williamson's quote to Nelson Mandela's inaugural speech, which was really from her book. And she says, you know, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. And she writes this in her book, Return to Love, but our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure, and it is our light, not our darkness, that must frighten us. And then it goes on with some more things, but the part that really stood out to me was there is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people will feel insecure around you. And we are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. And it's not just in some of us, it's in everybody. And as we let our light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fears, our presence automatically liberates others. So, yeah, so that's really, and this is my liberator. Deborah Giusti just had her 70th birthday party, and she did an online birthday party. And I said, I want to do something like that too. And this is a picture of her at age 70 that
Incredible.
that she put together, and then she had gone to Delphi, the Oracle temples in Greece.
Perfect.
So we're talking about Deborah Giusti's birthday, and then we're on the as part of my social justice work. A lot of people are trying to morph in and accept the idea of crone, the word crone, but I want you to know the origins of the word crone is actually an insult. Means an insult, and it has to do with the old French term that means a disagreeable or cranky woman. So we're trying to change that. And these are my grandkids who are up in Oregon right now. And Dylan is my sacred masculine, and Ella, who is in my procession, and Imuna, who's 2 years old now. And one more on the way. So, you know, as a child, you know, I was raised with the Disney princess world, right? And the princess lives in the castle, which has the moat, and she's used by her father to marry her off to acquire more land and to expand his kingdom. And so she's there to be getting her king and find her prince, and become a queen. Whereas the priestess lives in the temple. So I was always attracted to the priestess and wanting to know. And this is Socrates in a famous painting with the priestess Diotima, because I found out Socrates' mother was a priestess. So he was already open to priestess women who were high level scholars and high conscious beings, who were doing, a lot of. Diotima is actually teaching him about something which I train about, which is Magdalene's transition from human to divine, and the process of doing that is what this is. So here I am. I'm coming out of the closet, and I'm letting you know I'm a mystic. And I've been working for 74 years to raise consciousness, right? But what's now happening as an older woman, we've been so conditioned, especially if we gain weight, or even if we look beautiful, we're supposed to turn into dragons, and we're demonizing, and we're considered evil. But why? This is like really not good. And that's because we're supposed to be distracted by a prince and find our prince, right? Because you said you're half until you find your other half, right? But true love actually lies within, and the wise woman knows this, and she teaches us. So I'm up for, continuing the journey for the 13 Grandmothers Indigenous Council, and you see they have Mother Mary behind them, and so they're very much into it. So here I am this is my christening, and my godmother is holding me, and my godfather was Jewish, and he's a Holocaust survivor. So I'm not looking too happy being held by my godmother, but when I go over to my godfather, I give him a big hug, and just giving him love. It's like I've always had an affinity for wanting to rectify this problem. Well, of the Jewish people being demonized, and all of the nonsense that's happened in our world with anti-Semitic things. So it was really great to have him as my godfather. We have Here I am at 6 months old, and I still have this original Christmas program. It's in my baby book, and my mother was playing Mother Mary, and the reason they were trying to find a boy baby, but there were no boys to be found. So what ended up happening was my mother volunteered me, and this is the actual church, which you see looks like a temple. So at 6 months of age, I, not being a boy, was presented to the congregation as the Sophia Christos child.
Wow. I never knew that one, Christy.
I
Wow.
know. I tell you, there are going to be more things. But we lived in Kailua. That church was in Honolulu, where I was born, when we lived. And then we moved to Kailua. And I grew up in the Congregational church. But this church was completely devoid of the divine feminine. And I was starving. There was like no images allowed. And so I grew up in a world devoid of any information about sacred holy women and their ways, and lost stories. Like, I didn't even know about Anna, the grandmother of Jesus, until I was an adult. And how here she is, she's presented in the temple. Mary brings her, she holds her back a year, and then she brings her to the temple when she's turning 3 instead of 2. And they're curious to see what's going to happen when she gets to the top of the stairs. Is she going to turn around and look at her mother and go, "Mommy, mommy, how can you leave me?" And she gets to the top of the stairs and she dances. So that was really incredible. So instead, this is what I was raised with: the Magdalene that was stripped of her regal, cast out of the church, and she's still cast out of the church. Kathleen Osbo was telling me about how delicately she walks her walk in trying to work with Protestant churches to bring Magdalene back into the church. They're like really not. And so this is one of the mystical experiences I had early on in my life. Being the youngest girl of 3 older brothers, I just wanted them to come and play with me, right? And that for me, life was about singing and dancing, but they had their own trauma issues and were not able to really play, and certainly not with a girl. And so I was, you know, not welcomed in their play circles and whatnot. So I could see that they were doing the singing and dancing that I was always wanting to do. And that to me, that's what life is all about. And so I kept hearing about this God character, that he was all these omnis. He was omnipotent, omnificent, omni this, omni that, right? And so I had to figure out a way to get a hold of this God character. So I decided to give God a test that only God could pass. And if he could bring me a diamond covered dress, then I would know I was dealing with God and he would help me out. So here's the picture of me in the diamond covered dress. We went a couple weeks later back east for my grandparents' 50th wedding anniversary, and we stopped over in Chicago. And while we were there, a woman who were a family member, a friend who we were having dinner with, she said, "Oh, Christy, I have something for her." She went into her back bedroom and she came out with this dress, which was her daughter was the Olympic ice skating champion, and it was solid rhinestones. But that was diamond enough for me. I didn't know the difference. And you can see how much joy, and I'm already dancing. I'm kicking up my heels. And so I knew that there was a God. Fast forward to when I was ordained at the Isis Temple. I was ordained into the Lyceum of the Holy Sophia. And I never made that connection before. So on 10-10-10, there I was being initiated into the Lyceum. So we were playing around with the, here I am ready to pick up the sistine and start rattling it. And all of a sudden, all these orbs showed up. And I've had people say that the red one down there was the orb with the red Tara, and Archangel Michael was the blue in the center, and the rainbow orbs. Just a lot of joy.
Wow.
So this is when I was getting ordained. So here's the temple, and I just went into an altar state. I was so happy and in such a state of bliss, and I couldn't figure out why. Basically, I went back to my room and I randomly opened A Course in Miracles. And I caught my eye on this sentence that all separation vanishes as holiness is shared.
Mm-hmm.
For holiness is power, and by sharing it, it gains in strength. So that was what was really amazing to me. It's sharing holy power. I had never been with, there were 37 of us that were getting ordained. I had never been with a group of women who were claiming their divine self and expanding and strengthening their holy power. So this was so amazing. So who is this Holy Sophia that I'm now in the lineage of? I didn't even know. I didn't know her origin story. And of course, this is the way she is now, because she's been the temple to the Holy Sophia was now a mosque. And so of course they had to cover her all up. She is not allowed to be viewed anymore. And this is the state of our world. My passion then became about revealing what has been suppressed. This is another shocking story I learned, but it's interesting because you see the Sistine Chapel painting of the God putting the spark in Adam, and the brain is the divine mind, right? They actually got the brain nailed. But when you look at it closer, you see that God is hanging on for dear life to this woman. And who is this woman? This woman is the Holy Sophia, the wisdom of God. And so I have been hooking up with my friends Dan and Diana Melchizedek. They were yesterday at a Holy Sophia conference in Chicago, of all places, presenting some of his work. And this is Dan's new book that just came out about his work in the mysteries of the Sophia. And it's a daunting task studying it with Sister Sophia and everything, because all this information is very hard to understand and whatnot. So, but as I begin my journey in this unraveling and uncovering, I was supposed to attend a lecture in the evening, and I heard this bee buzzing in my bedroom. So I went and I put my finger up, and this queen bee came and kissed my finger. And when I got to the lecture, it turned out it was on the bee's connection to the priestess of Delphi. There's
Oh,
which is the work of Marguerite Riglioso, and she had just come out with her PhD level research. She's one of the first female shamans, but who is a true academic scholar who had really done a deep dive into the divine birth mysteries and the goddesses in ancient Greek, and kind of unraveling all of that. And so I had my first vision, and my vision was that I was supposed to honor Mother Mary for her consciousness to conceive God in turn, and create and birth a God, to conceive light and create a God. So I called Marguerite up, and she said, "Oh yeah, let's do it." So here we are. And Jan was at this. You should be, yeah, Jan, you're in the picture. And Elizabeth and Celestine and all of us. And we've been doing ceremonies ever since. And this was the very first one. And then this is, I heard because I had never done one of these before, that when you do a goddess altar, you have to have an offering, right? So I got daffodil bulbs and put them out because it was the winter. It was on Guadalupe's feast day. And so I became obsessed with, we need to do the next ceremony when the daffodil balls bloom. And I didn't know when that was. It's like, when do you plant it? How much water and sunlight it has? There's no like, oh yeah, it'll be blooming in 6 weeks. Well, the day that the daffodils bloomed, I was running out the door and I noticed, the daffodils are bloomed. And when I looked, I was going to Jan's ceremony that she was having on our voice. Yeah, Jan, what was that? The one of your first, not first, but one of your ceremonies too.
It was something about the voice of the divine feminine at the Nexus.
Yes, with all the golden Buddhas.
Yeah.
And we were doing voice release work to help us open up our voice
the women's voices, I think it was called a caravan.
Yes, to release our voices. And there's all of the same group. We're all there. And I didn't know that the other women were going to be there. So we all were together when the daffodils bloomed, the day that bloomed. So I grew up in Hawaii, and thank God I grew up in a diverse family. These are my nieces and nephews, and my brother married a Hawaiian Japanese gal, and thank God for her. She was the rock. She was a mother bear for sure. She cared so deeply for her children. And this is my niece and my nephew, Sean and Jolene. And Sean is now a pretty high up steward of Hawaiian sacred lands. They have a heiau that is near his house that is for healing, and he's the steward of that. And so they're amazing people. And this was my backyard where I grew up. Our house was right on the beach, so I would run out every day after school and come down to the beach. And this is where I had my next mystical experience, because I snuck out of the house at night just as the moon was rising. And I found this image which shows you just how it was when I walked down to that beach, and this big, huge moon. And I had no idea how significant the moon was going to be in my life now that I'm doing Magdalene moonrise services, right? So I got to meet the moon goddess, and she was so stunning and so gorgeous. And I ran and sang and leaped and jumped and all Broadway musicals that I knew on the beach all night long. And then I snuck back to my bedroom. My parents didn't find me out. Then when I was in the 6th grade, I had a near-death experience. And this was quite amazing because I was trying to ride top speed to catch up with my friends.
Uh-oh.
And I fainted while I was riding top speed. And as soon as my body hit the ground, I came back up out of my body, and I'm looking down at my body laying on the ground. And I was like, wow, that's really curious. I was not worried one bit. I didn't care. It was like an old coat. And of course, Course in Miracles says that that's what it feels like. Your body is like an old coat. And I didn't even want to put it back on. But I saw the ambulance was coming and my friends were freaking out. And I was trying to tell them, hey, I'm okay. And the reason I felt okay was because I felt completely whole. Nothing was missing. So I was so excited and happy about that experience because it really cemented in for me that I don't need to fear death. Life is more scary. So then I started my adventures. And of course, as a young adult, the very first thing I wanted to do was to go to the temples, right? I went to Delphi and to Athens and Greece and visit all the temples where all these gorgeous big divine feminine statues were. And it was such a love affair. And then later I went to Egypt and went to the temple of Isis. So what happened was I hooked up with Shannon Anderson, and she had written a book about her Magdalene awakening, and she had thought she was going crazy because she was getting all these downloads about Mary Magdalene. And so finally she said, Magdalene, this is you and this is real. Please give me a sign. And so she asked for a sign, and her sign was a hair tie, was in the trail where she was walking when she asked this question. And then she got down to her car and she turned on the radio, and there was a song from Hair on the radio. And so she realized that she opened her book that she was reading, and it just happened to fall on the page that said, and she washed with her tears, she dried his feet with her hair. And she went, oh, the hair tie is a sign. Well, she told me that we should go to on the Magdalene pilgrimage. And so I said, sure, let's go. And when I arrived in London, I said to her, would you think Magdalene is with us? So she said, well, let's see. So we stepped out of the hotel, and there's her hair tie. And not only was the hair tie, but every license plate started with 153, and 153 is the sacred geometry number of meaning that means the Magdalene. And every single time that we arrived at any site that had anything to do with Magdalene, we would find a hair tie there. So, including going up to the tour, and she got up ahead of me. So she's standing in the doorway holding a hair tie that was waiting for us when we arrived at the tour. And then when we went to Rosslyn Chapel, which is full of the divine feminine artwork and carvings and whatnot, is the home of the Knights Templar, right? There's another hair tie. Well, when we left Rosslyn Chapel, we had to go and find a bread and breakfast. So we're driving and driving. We don't really know, we didn't really have smartphones. And so we were just driving around. We come around the corner and there is a B&B. So it turned out we went in and we found out as soon as we parked the car, there was a hair tie there. So we knew we were good. And this was the home of a Knights Templar. This husband showed us his lineage book of his grandfather, his great grandfather, all the way going back to the Knights Templar. So we slept in, and they had bought this chapel. So we were with the Knights Templar that night. And then we went to France and the Artemis Cave. And this is where my grandbabies went with my daughter to the caves up in the south of France. Anyway, at the end of the whole trip, we had 27 hair ties. But I started telling my friends and emailing them while we were on the road. And guess what? Joanna started finding hair ties everywhere. So I wasn't the only one. It became a thing. Then my next travel adventures was when on 12/21, the world was supposed to end, if you remember that. So I went with Deborah Giusti, and we took a cruise down to the Mayan pyramids, and Colin Andrews, who was the man who coined the term crop circles, was on the cruise giving lectures. And he's showing all these lectures. And I said to him, hey, Colin, did you notice that all of the crop circles seem to be goddess symbols? And he was like, yeah. He said, that's curious. He said he was so excited because he got a grant that allowed him to get all the electromagnetic equipment to measure it and, do all the engineer things to crop circle. Okay. So this is a Guatemalan shaman woman, and we went to hear her lecture. And when she spoke, it was really interesting because what she rose to speak and she said was that it is now time for the men to take a back seat. That it's not the end of the world, she says, but it's the end of a new era where the divine feminine is rising and in partnership with the divine masculine. She had this beautiful flower mandala that she had made on the bottom. And so she rose to speak about the men allowing and respecting that the women were going to be rising now, and that we were going into a new era, that the Mayan calendar was going to be over. And then I learned about this crop circle that basically was formed on Magdalene's feast day on July 22nd, which showed the complete opening elevation of Mary Magdalene. And I got really curious about what was the first crop circle of 2012. So I researched it, and it turned out it was the flower of life symbol that happened, was as the first reported crop circle. And then when I looked for what was the last one, it was in Australia, which was, their opposite. Their summers are winters. So the end of our year, and they had a Vesca Pisces with the flower of life symbol. And, when you do the math on the sacred geometry configurations, it comes out to 153 fishes were caught in the net. Well, the 153, according to the ancient Greeks, is the word that comes up with, which in the ancient Greek means the Magdalene. So we're now entering the age of the Magdalene. And then in August, when the crop circles are like totally, there's like only 4 hours of darkness up in England. This crop circle happened to be created with over 1,296 curved squares, and they were alternating between flat to give the appearance of the human DNA strand. And it happened on the same weekend that there was a group of scientists that were meeting. These are the scientists that specialized in the study of why crop circles turn, why they twist. And so really interesting that there was this curvature and twisting of and that there's no way, they said there was no way that anyone in 4 hours time could have made this crop circle because it was way too complex. So the other thing about it was because where the grass is up, that's a 1, and where the grass is down, that's a 0. So they fed the 1s and the 0s into the computer, and they got a message. They were looking for what was the message of this crop circle. And the message was, goddess of all creation. So I thought that was fabulous. And of course, we were, ending, according to the Mayan calendar, the era. I'm entering a new era. So we also were having in 2012 the Venus transit. And of course, there was a crop circle that showed the phenomena of Venus transiting the planet, which is this wonderful image of the little tiny dot of Venus across the big sun. But I thought it was interesting how the Cathar symbol is also very similar to this. Cathar's symbol is, showing a circle, and it represents the maypole, because when you look down from the heavens to earth at a maypole, what you'd see is the top of the maypole, which is just the pole part. And so that's why, and of course the maypole was for dancing and singing and joy of heaven on earth, right? But unfortunately, we had Pope Gregory, who decided in 1969 to label Mary Magdalene as a whore. And, you know, then we had the massacre of 222 Cathars this is in the south of France. So Shannon took me up there. We hiked all the way up, and at the time it was not cloudy, but the more we got up to the top of the monastery where the Cathars were holding out against the Catholics, um, we it got more and more foggy. And so an interesting phenomena happened because we wanted to do a ceremony in the Cathar ruins about all these, people women that were killed and priests, because Cathars believe in nonviolence. They believe that women were equal in spirit and they recognize no priesthood. So the woman could be a priestess, and if her husband died, she could go on and carry on the tradition of spiritual director. And so we set up our little ritual, and we were going to honor this. And you can see it was kind of drizzling and very foggy and whatnot. But suddenly in the camera, there was one orb. And I just thought it was so curious because usually, like when I was in Egypt, they would tell us, bring your cameras tomorrow because this is a temple that's full of orbs, right? So I took this picture I think this was the Luxor temple. And so there's this one orb all by itself, and it's a foggy, rainy, drizzly day. And then my friend gave me a book from my birthday on the Magdalene, and I found this picture of the one orb with the Grail cup. So I thought that was really, I love all these little magical synchronicities. But more importantly, you see how the monastery where the Cathars was very high up, trying to protect them from the Crusades and the fact that the Pope wanted to annihilate them, genocide. And so Kathleen McGowan had on her website all these resource links. And I was clicking through them because she talked to at one point about a story of 4 Cathars that had escaped the backside of and which was quite a daunting task to get away from the Catholic, crusaders that were going to massacre them all. So 4 of them, and the story is that I heard was a teenage boy, an older man, and 2 young priestesses. And the reason for the 2 now these are 2 young girls who are fully trained in all the ways of the Cathars, and they knew that the Catholics would treat them as rubbish. And so they would just release them and let them go and not be bothered with them because they're women, what does that mean? And so they made sure these girls knew everything about the Cathars' ways. And so I'm looking in the links on Kathleen's website, and I found this link that went to the thing that was called the Magdalene House. And there they said is the listing of all the families that are descendants of the Cathars. And there's my oldest brother, Nestle. Father, it was a different father. His father's name was Brown, and my father's name was Craig. So we had the same mother. And according to this Magdalene House listing all the descendants, the family names, that was my brother. And Nestle and I are like, Nestle's a scientist and a professor and not really very spiritual guy. And so it's like, what this connection? Like, how do we pick their family? We're supposedly pick our family members. So it's like, it seems so opposite to what I would have picked as a little girl who wants to just be in a family. I should have been in a family of all musicians and singing and dancing and whatnot. And turned out not to be the case. But anyway, that was really interesting for me to find the Brown connection. So then I got passionate about the crop circles. And of course, July 22nd, Magdalene's feast day, there was another crop circle that appeared that had the headdress of the rain goddess, the emitter. And this one was the swallows flying in formation. It was like 3 football fields wide. And this one, they believe that the Hopis believe that the swallows are the messengers of God. So they're bringing in, and it's exact identical replica of the ancient Greek goddess. So there's all these interconnections. And then the other magical thing about 2012 was in January 2012, I was at a birthday party of a friend. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, I just said, you know what we need? We need a women of the round table. And Jan, you were with me on this one. So what ended, and Elizabeth too, she came. All of a sudden, everybody within earshot of when I just blurted this out sat down in a circle on the floor in the living room. And we said, yes, we need a women of the round table, right? But we were in the year of the water dragon. So the water dragon puts out the fires. Now, King Arthur did a good thing bringing the knights into some level of equality, by having them sit around a round table. But now we needed to transform this, right? And we needed diversity and inclusion. And so we wanted the water dragons to put out the fires. So very shortly after that, Jan was house sitting at a house with a huge table that could seat 12. And we all met there and we sat around the table and we meditated. And what I took away from that experience was somebody in the group shared that it's now time for the word priestess to come out. And I had not really been disclosing that I was a priestess or talking about it much. So I felt like, yeah, I need to feel safe, and we are safe, and so I want to come out and say about priestess. So that's what happened. So my priestess journey began, and then of course in being a Course in Miracles teacher and student for years and years and years from when the book first came out, but I really became a deep student of it in the 90s. There's a section in the Manual for Teachers, and it says, there are those who have reached God directly, retaining no trace of worldly limits, remembering their own identity perfectly. These might be called the teachers of teachers, because although they are no longer visible, their image can yet be called upon. So their image can yet be called upon. So it was giving permission for the image to come forward. And that when we look at the image of the divine feminine, I was obsessed with collecting divine feminine images because they were so beautiful, and they added so much in terms of beauty and artistic creative expression and everything. I wanted so much to have that be a part. So it said that they will appear when and where it is helpful for them to do so. And so, and of course now we've had women who've come forth and told their stories about apparitions appearing to them, like Elizabeth has had, and Kathleen McGowan has also had. In Kathleen's story, she had an apparition appear when she was 7 months pregnant with her son, and she said, "I'm Mary Magdalene, and I want you to know that your baby will be fine, but you need to know that." And so, sure enough, she went to the doctor the next day, and he said, "I don't see any problems. Everything looks normal." And within an hour of her son's birth, she was ordering the doctor to airlift her son to UC Med so that she could, have the opportunity to have him get in intensive care quickly, because the doctor wanted to pull the plug on him. And now he's a bright, young, healthy young man. He just graduated from college last year. And then, of course, this launched my whole studying with various scholars like Kathleen Osbo, Kayleen Osbo, and really appreciated her work. So now it came to the time when I was getting getting ready to do my work, and this is another mystical experience I had. I came home. So anyway, one morning I woke up in my meditation and I received a massive download about the work that I personally was supposed to be doing around the Magdalene. And that's when the visions began happening for me. And I had gone into my house the night before and I noticed that there was a very tight bud that had formed. It was the first bud the plant had. And then the next morning, after receiving this massive download of my Magdalene work, and it was time to begin my Magdalene work, I came outside and there was this, that's the actual rose that was bloomed. From that tight bud, it went right into a full, like just within 12 hours. It's like, how the heck could it be that fast? I don't know. It was like so amazing to me. So this began my path on the Magdalene awakening. And then, of course, the other mystical thing was having the doors fly open so that I could begin to do some of this work. And Unity in Marin, Bill Englehart had a dream that the Black Madonna came to him. And when he came to him, she said to him, Bill, you need to give him the rudder. Now I got this picture of you see the rudder on the boat, right? And the rudder on the boat steers the boat. And so she said, Bill, I want the rudder. And I remembered later that what happened was the legend is that Mary Magdalene came by rudderless boat to the south of France. And she brought her what was considered by some in the legend as her Egyptian slave child, Sarah, or some people say that was her daughter being disguised as an Egyptian slave child so that she wouldn't be harmed. But anyway, and of course now in France they revere her and honor her and worship her as an icon of the Black Madonna. But I had seen this painting. So when Bill asked me, I saw him a couple of days later, and he said, "What do you think this dream meant?" And I told him, I said, "Bill, I think the dream means that she wants in." And suddenly there was no restrictions anymore for me going into Unity in Marin. So I started doing ceremonies. So the very first ceremony I was going to do there, I wanted to do it and have this painting of the Black Madonna. So the woman in the middle of the picture is Elizabeth Gibbons, and I asked her if she would please bring this to our ceremony on a Friday night. And she said, "Oh my God," she said, "Christy, this painting is huge. It's heavy. That means she's going to have to rope her husband into helping her bring the painting to the church, which is in Novato from San Francisco on a Friday night, and the traffic, and get there before 7." She said, "Not likely, but let me think about it." Well, the next day she goes to the Crystal Fair, which she always does. And who should happen to be there? Somebody she did not know was Michelle Newman giving readings. And Michelle and Elizabeth doesn't get readings, but she felt so drawn and compelled to have a reading. And even though Michelle was trying to close up the shop and stop everything, she went ahead and granted her the ability to do the reading. Now, Elizabeth tells me the story, and the way she tells it to me is that she had no idea. She just said to Michelle, "Help me get my artwork out into the world," would be what I would want a reading about. And Michelle closed her eyes. She told me and said, "Oh, you're supposed to help this woman named Christy Michaels on Friday night." And because Michelle knew I was doing this event, "and bring your Black Madonna painting." So anyway, however it came out, it was pretty magical that the two of them happened to coincidentally meet, and Michelle was able to encourage Elizabeth to overcome whatever obstacles she had to overcome to get me the Black Madonna painting for my very first ceremony at Unity in Marin. So I really appreciate it. And Michelle's on the call here. So that's why in the majority of my ceremonies, I either begin with the Black Madonna through the procession or some song, or I honor her somehow, because I feel like she really was the one that opened the doors for me and allowed me to begin my journey of doing this. So I was also a big meditator, and this is another mystical experience that happened. I was sitting in meditation one day, and I was told to go to Marianne Williamson's website. So I said, okay. And what should happen when I opened up her website is this flyer about her Sister Giant conference. So, okay, I grabbed my daughter. We went down there, and, she was doing this to try to raise awareness about why women in America were not thriving and why we were having so many issues. Women, 1 in 3 being abused, all these thousands and thousands of children dying of starvation, and Americans' child poverty rate was rising, and the mutilation and whatnot. And she felt like what had happened was the witch burning in Salem had shut us up. So she brought in one of the top leading experts from UCLA on witch burning to have a conversation and talk about the witch burning. Well, that was pretty incredible conversation that we all had, bringing some awareness. And she was able to tell us how even in our languaging, there's certain words that originated from the witch burning experience that are threaded through our modern day language now. I wish I'd written them down and could tell you what they were, but it's well ingrained in our DNA, the persecution and the witch burning phenomena. Well, I happen to have a cousin who's a fanatical genealogist, and he wrote this really big, thick book that was about who begat who in the Craig clan. And I told him, I said, anyway, I came home and I got an email from him, and he was so excited. He said, I've been able to trace you through your father's mother's line back to the Salem witch burning. So there was some person in my lineage of the females that was having to endure this trauma. So what happened with my work was, the bottom line was, I realized that her rise was predicted. And of course, I was connected now with Elizabeth Kelly and listening to all of her lectures. And Elizabeth apparition had told her that she was Mary Magdalene and that she was rising. This was the end of the 90s, and was going to, be rising. And so would she help agent her message? And I was just riveted on everything that Elizabeth was doing. But then I found out when I went to Charles Fillmore's, Myrtle Fillmore has a Magdalene chapel. And in her chapel, she has this passage from the Bible. It says, I tell you the truth, wherever the good news is preached throughout the world, this woman's deeds will be remembered and discussed. And it wasn't until really this last Magdalene Easter moonrise service that I recognized the word wherever, because the gospel, the good news, which is what the word gospel means, has been preached about forever. But they don't preach, they're not saying that when they're telling you about the gospel that they're including Mary Magdalene. More likely, it doesn't include Mary Magdalene at all. And it's only that you're a sinner and he's going to save you, and so you have to free you. So now we've been liberating ourselves, and we're fulfilling her prophecy. We have 14 years that we've done the Magdalene Moonrise Easter service, where we fulfill this prophecy and remember and discuss what it is that she has done. And these are some of the wonderful, glorious pictures. Here's my granddaughter carrying in the Magdalene. So instead of being introduced to Magdalene as the penitent sinner, she's being introduced to Magdalene as the illuminated, enlightened one. And she was so struck by that. She took her role and her responsibility of placing that painting on the altar so seriously. You could tell she was just really touched. And then we've been blessing the oils, and we've been anointing each other, and we've been singing our hearts out, and we've been dancing and whatnot, and we've been laughing so hard. It's such a joyous event, and we've been praying. This is Christine Tillis's husband. This is a fabulous painting because we don't know how this picture got taken, that it's right on his third eye, the candlelight, but it's so amazing. And then the sacred masculine, the men would show up and they would support us and help us. And as we went deep into sacred space, and we pulled the nails out of the cross, and we picked out our forgiveness cards, and we had rose petals tossed on our heads. And we were so deeply moved as we entered the sound healing center, and we got our hearts anointed. And it was such a glorious and amazing time of the what we call the six station rituals, where we were all joined as one. Just such a glorious, amazing group of people. So, but unfortunately, fear almost drove out the divine feminine. And thank God for this book, because it tells a different story. And I'm going to end with this last story, which is, even in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, it says, go to him, and those who seek him and find him. And I was like, really? Even in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, she's saying we have to go to seek him. What about her, seeking her, And so I'm sitting in my morning meditation, and I'm going to go and do the Gospel of Mary group. And I'm going to have to talk about this page in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, because I'm teaching a class on it. And I'm asking Jesus to please help me here. Help me to understand this. How can I, do this differently? And so I'm sitting there and I hear him, you tell them it's H period, I period, M period. And I went, H is for heaven, I is for in, and M is for me. Him is heaven in me. And if you can find heaven in you, and then you share it and extend it. Remember my first thing about all separation vanishes when we share that which is holy? So there we go, God. Thank you so much. And now for the modern day version, Santone was very inspirational in creating this vision for a healing of America, which we did on January 6th, and have done a number of ceremonies on that. I have been very deeply concerned about the rise of white Christian nationalism, which is trying to get people to believe that Jesus wants us to take up arms and to fight each other. But we know that that is not the work of Jesus and Magdalene, is equality and peace. So you remember when Uncle Sam poster used to be that I want you for the U.S. Army? Well, I asked my friend Brian Norell, who's a cartoonist, if we could have, because we have so many amazing Black women, African American women, who are in leadership positions doing phenomenal things. I said, we need Auntie Sam. This is a new meme. If we can get the licensing fee for this, we might be able to see, because Auntie Sam wants peace, and she wants everyone to live in peace. And it's time for a change and to bring in the feminine way of doing things. And, now we have so many amazing, women of color who are stepping up in new leadership positions, and they're taking on the patriarchy. And I just wanted to take a moment to honor them and to thank them for their incredible courage and their work in persevering and staying in a deeper truth. And this is another mystical thing that happened to me synchronistically. I've been producing events and I do a lot of social justice events. And one of the events I was helping Cindy Acker, who wrote, she took the court transcripts and turned it into a reader's theater about, and we were going to see, you see, where we were going to do it over as part of Juneteenth celebration. And we decided not to because who should be sitting in the congregation the day, just happened to be sitting in the congregation the day that we decided to announce that we were going to do the instead of I'm sorry, we were going to do it for part of Black History Month in February, and we were going to change it to a Juneteenth a celebration, and was Deborah Warren. She is the granddaughter of Chief Justice Earl Warren. And she came up to Cindy after the service and she said, you know, I have my grandfather's memoirs and you might be interested. So Cindy Ackers did this phenomenal job of weaving in the reflective thoughts that Chief Justice Earl Warren had about how he could win this case. And the thing that he realized is that the only way he could overcome Jim Crow at that time was he would have to have it be a unanimous decision. And so that's what he worked on and was successful in getting a unanimous decision. So I'm really grateful to her. So I was helping her with producing this event, which we held at Unity. And Deborah's husband played her father, Chief Justice Warren, in the play. And, oh, I forgot to tell you, Kamala, the reason why I have Kamala's pictures there, at the same time, Kamala brought a case when she was before she became a senator, the first desegregation case against the Marin County Sausalito School District, because they had segregated the Sausalito students from the Marin City students. And so she brought a case to stop that and to overturn that. And then she went on and became a senator. And so she was instrumental in helping us with stopping the segregation that was going on in our own county. So, little piece of history. And then, you know, somebody was telling me the word Kamala actually means lotus, and her middle name is Devi. So that means goddess. So we have a lotus goddess. So Carol Luna has written a song. So I'm going to stop sharing here for a second because I don't know if Carol Luna she was going to try to jump on. I don't know whether she got on or not, but I'm going to put the link in for her song. So anyway, you guys can watch it. It's up on YouTube and you'll be able to see how amazing the Kamala song is. So I guess I don't just have to see if she's here. Ilona's here, but she doesn't have her camera on. And anyway, thank you guys for indulging me in my desire to really want to share the mystical journey, that I hope some of it was fun for you. And it met a need for me that I had to string them all together. And so it's good to see you, Zoe. Thank you for joining us, and Ilona, and let's see who else is here. Michelle Newman and Eliyahu. Thank you guys for coming. I really appreciate it. And Galia. So we're going to open it up. Everybody has any questions or wants to make any comments or anything? Thank you.
Pick me.
Yes, Jan.
When you showed the Kailua Beach, you know that's where Rick's family owns a double wide lot there.
Yeah.
So it's like my backyard. So when you showed that, I'm there all the time. I had like a month a year. It was what an amazing thing to think that you did all that dreaming and I'm there. And speaking of time and space and the mysteries of life, my plane was rerouted the other night to the Detroit airport, and right there, surrounded by Secret Service, was Kamala Harris's husband. This is
Oh,
before
right.
announced. So he and I, we just kind of hit it off, kind of. We got a nice photo up. I said, tell Kamala we women love her sense of empowerment, and she's a woman of color. And I said, tell her that I said good luck. And they announced it. So Spirit told me she was born in Oakland. 10 years later, they said, Jan, she needs help with her voice. So it's more grounded in her body, it's more inclusive, it's more magnanimous. Help her bring the divine feminine through her voice. So I worked with another divine feminine goddess, and for an hour we worked on her voice. So anyway, that's how I get my assignments, through the mysteries and planes rewiring and running on the Kailua Beach, feeling your energy of dreams there. I mean,
Yes.
we're just a grid of.
Next time you're there with the full moon, go out just as the moon is rising. It's huge. And you can see it's a goddess energy. It's just like,
September. I'm going in September for 2 weeks.
oh,
I'll
awesome.
mute myself because I could talk all day. That's my favorite.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Jan. So,
Christy,
yes, dear.
I was at the Marianne's conference in LA also for Sister Giant. I'm sure we saw each other there.
Oh, for which one now?
Sister Giant with Marianne Williamson.
Oh, really? Yeah, we would have seen each other. Well, there were 500 women.
I know, but I mean, I remember seeing you. We must have talked because, I knew a lot of people.
Well, she did a couple of them. This was the one where she did the witch burning, and then on Friday night, and then on Saturday, she did Angels with Iron Jaws, which is the suffragette, the story of the women suffragette, and then Sunday was these documents are a must see. And then the last one was the Liberian Peace Women's Movement, Pray the Devil Back to Hell, which was produced by Disney's daughter, who's become a social justice person, and she's been trying to get awareness. And the Liberian Peace Women's Movement is so powerful because it shows us how we as women can use our feminine ways to actually, because it's a group of women that overthrew a brutal dictator just by being willing to hold consciousness and space for the word peace, that they want peace. And then they joined with Muslim women. So we had Christian women and Muslim women praying together for peace. And then thousands of women joined them. And pretty soon there was such a force to be reckoned with that it overthrew the brutal dictator who was causing the women to be raped and treated horribly and whatnot. So that
Chrissy,
was, yeah.
It's Joanna. So I just want to reinforce that, and to reinforce this connection as Kamala begins to really come into her own. It's not just her, it's all of us. And that this is the culmination of work that women have been doing for hundreds of years, and in our lifetime, decades of years. And so I think I'm just hoping she remembers Marianne. I know that they've had connections before, and that we finally get a Department of Peace, and that it includes not only a Department of Peace, but the Department of Peace and Feminine Divine Justice. And that's my vision.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Joanne. I agree. And I want to say that if all of us are working together on the spiritual level collaboratively with her and with all the women that are going to vote for her, that, this is how, our telepathic, intuitive ability to connect with each other and each other's hearts can really make this happen. I think it's a group energy because she's being collaborative right and left.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
She's been a chameleon her entire political career, and now she's in a position where she can claim her throne, and she's not clawing her way to the top in a man's world. and she can move into the Magdalene, magnificent, magnetized, I'm just so thrilled there's this opportunity, but all of us need to infuse.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And Christy, you might remember at Sister Giant, she talked a lot about women getting involved in politics, and
Yeah.
she was always, we've been so spiritual all these years. Let's get involved in politics. But what I saw in that is let's bridge, let's integrate and bridge the politics and spirit, because it's not separate.
No, I mean, I saw, so when her book Politics of Love came out,
Mm-hmm.
Marianne Williamson's book, she was being interviewed by Cenk Uygur, who is, the Young Turks progressive justice Democrats, progressive justice. Anyway, he has a radio talk show, and he's interviewing her, and he goes, "Politics of love." Well, he was kind of like, "Well, what? How can we have politics of love? That's sort of ridiculous." And then he realized what he said. He was like, "I mean, love is great." He goes, he's like backpedaling because it's like, yeah, this is part of the problem that we aren't caring for each other, and this whole idea. I mean, I loved what Tim Waltz says. It's like, yes, what a monster I am. I wanted all the kids fed, and I didn't want the kids to bring their own lunch, because the kids who could bring better food would be, fighting or bullying the kids who couldn't bring good food. And so they all get the same food, and hopefully it's more elevated than,
Yeah.
but anyway.
Wonderful. Christy, thank you for sharing your 75th birthday and all the many, many, many years leading up to it. I feel so grateful to have been part of this unfolding and awakening in your life. And I'm going to see you again soon. I'm going to get off now, but I love you. And I just feel great to be here with all of your
Brain
friends.
power
And
you want is
All right.
not in a bottle cap.
It's
Thank
good
you.
to see you, Joanna. I'm so happy to see you.
Great to see you, Joanna.
likewise,
Yeah.
likewise.
All right.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Christy,
Yeah,
I have a
thank
poem that I wrote that I'd like to read to honor you.
Yes. But if you don't mind, just before that, Eliyahu, I asked Karen, because we were going to doing a thing on Kamala, if she would sing
Oh, sure.
a song, and so she's picked a song. I think it's a Nicole a Cole King Porter song. So Karen, if you could sing your song, and then we'll have you do the thing, just because we got the spirit of Kamala still.
Oh, sure.
Okay, I was debating between two songs, so I'll let you pick which one you want. Either Smile by Nat King Cole or Blowing in the Wind by Bob Dylan. So let me know which one you prefer.
Nat King Cole.
Okay, okay. And I just want to say that you all been talking about Marianne. I first met her back in the early 90s when I was going to Unity Church in Houston. And, she's from the Houston area.
Right.
And so when she comes home, she used to go to that church, from what I've been told, before she moved to California. And so when she would come home, sometimes she would come to the church. And so I've been knowing her from way back then. And I did go to, she had an event here last year. I went to one of her campaign events. But I'm going to try to put in a word to the Harris campaign people to try to get her, at least give her some time to speak next week at the convention. I'm going to work on that.
Oh,
and
good.
see if we can at least, let her have something to say there.
Yes, really.
Because I do think that religion without some kind of spirituality is it gets to what we see with the Christian nationalist movement. And I did watch that movie Bad Faith that showed how that whole movement got going. And so I've been sharing with them, trying to get people to watch that.
Yes, good.
So that's what I'm working on right now. So anyway,
I mean, even with all this enthusiasm that's happening, when you see the poll numbers and in some states it's still 50-50, it's like, how can this be? I mean, it's been shocking and a rude awakening for me to realize how much racism there is in our country. It's just disgusting.
Well, I grew up in the Jim Crow South, so and I do not want to go back to that.
No.
And so I'm just praying that because that's what the other administration is trying to take us back to. That's what the Christian nationalist movement really wants, to get rid of all the civil rights stuff and all those different. And I live, and I don't want to go back there.
There's no Magdalene in the white Christian nationalism. So, and that's a big problem.
Yeah, I have a friend that was born the very same day you were.
Oh,
so
really?
I called yesterday to wish her happy birthday on her 75th birthday. And both of you all are just very joyous people. I mean, I just love you all. Both of you all have this good positive energy.
Well, I'm so grateful that you came and you're coming to my party. I love getting to know you, Karen. You're truly an amazing elder, and your stories of what you've gone through in the civil rights and working back then. I mean, I can't imagine people. When I was so shocked when I read Martin Luther King's has the six structures of I forget what he exactly calls it, but about nonviolence, and I remember like structure number 2 or something was that the purpose of nonviolence is to create the beloved community. Wow. And considering how many people were being brutalized at that time, that he came up with that sentence, that's the purpose. And of course, now, it's been so amazing for me to find. All of you know who Kasturba is? Kasturba is Gandhi's wife. And there's a new documentary just came out called Accidental Activist. And turns out Kasturba is the one who put the idea into Gandhi's mind. You need to do this nonviolently. You need to address this issue with the British using nonviolent tactics. And she was the one who trained him. She was the one who brought that up for him. And he did it out of her inspiration. So when they were going to do the march down to the ocean to make their own salt, because the British were trying to say you could buy salt from us, and they said, well, we're going to go to the ocean and make our own salt. She organized all the women. They were all there ready to march, and Gandhi has no men because the men were scared to death that they were going to get beaten up by the British soldiers. And she goes, well, I got all the women, we're going. And so the women take off, and so Gandhi goes, okay, I'm coming. And so he starts taking off. And so the men see that the women are leading. And of course, they can't have that, right? So they all then jump in and join in. And that's how the march happened. But did we get that story? No. But this woman went to India and she interviewed over 500 people that knew Kasturba to document her story. And now she's working on part 2, which is a deeper dive into all of the wonderful things Kasturba did to help with the whole nonviolent movement. And so now every time I was just on another show recently where they were talking about, oh, Gandhi and nonviolence. I go, excuse me. There was a woman behind this, which we all know, but it's really time to start acknowledging the women. So,
well, they really don't talk about the women that were in the civil rights movement. It was the men who were out front for the most part, but their wives and there were other women that really played a big part in that movement. And I was fortunate enough to know Mrs. King, and I used to talk to her all the time about certain things. And so, yeah, they did a whole lot of stuff. But I went over to the King Center last month. They had Be Love Day and premiered a film. I think they could write off the name of the film, but I'm going to try to give that information to Scott so maybe he can get it shown. But yeah, they're still working on that, on their same premise of that beloved community and that love portion of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's what we need so much. So thank you for all
Okay.
you do.
So yeah. So I guess I'll go ahead
Okay.
and sing. Smile, though your heart is aching. Smile, even though it's breaking. When there are clouds in the sky, you'll get by. If you smile through your fear and sorrow, smile, and maybe tomorrow you'll see the sun come shining through for you. Light up your face with gladness. Hide every trace of sadness. Although a tear may be ever so near, that's the time you must keep on trying. Smile, what's the use of crying? You'll find that life is still worthwhile if you just smile.
Thank you so much, Karen. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Very beautiful. All right. So, Eliyahu, thank you, my dear, for
Karen,
being so gracious.
that was so beautiful. You warm my heart and lift my soul.
Yes, exactly.
So this poem is called Christy, Here She Comes.
Oh boy.
Christy, here she comes. Her love of family and of friends knows no bounds. Her life and ours, well filled with grace within our beloved community. Christy, here she comes, as she makes her rounds, gowned in white, and sometimes dressed in denim, sometimes in lace. There's a smile for everyone upon her face. Her love radiating, her inclusive smile beckoning, her embrace enfolding, comforting, uplifting. Christy, here she comes. And here she is. Love always nurturing, making space, welcoming us in, warming our hearts, uplifting our souls, blessing us, blessing our human race. Christy, sharing so much of yourself. You embrace us with your deep love, comfort, and care. What else is there for me to say to you today other than hip, hip, hooray?
Hey. Thank you, Eliyahu. That is so wonderful. Very, very apropos, I think, to who I am. I'm glad I feel seen. I feel heard. I certainly do try to do that, you know. I'm
Oh,
still that little girl inside who wants to just sing and dance and play, you know. That's what we're supposed to be doing, right? What is all this
hey.
war and whatnot? I had a dinner party with a group of friends yesterday, and somebody asked me, so how do you feel about being 75? And I just stopped for a second, and all of a sudden I just realized I am so pissed because I thought by the time I got to be 75, the wars would be a thing of the past. We would not be dealing with war. We would not be dealing with racism anymore. People would have grown up and learned that we're all human beings. And so they would be there would be enough integration, enough diversity, enough inclusion happening that we wouldn't be dealing with this. And I just am just beside myself. I was realizing how angry I was. I, as a teenager, we were flower children and we were like, make love, not war, right? and, uh, and we were trying marching and doing all this stuff, to try to stop this insanity. And here it is. The Gaza thing is just heartbreaking, and the insanity that these Netanyahu, Putin, and these individual white guys are being allowed, and they are being allowed to just wreak their insanity and their insane thoughts and beliefs on people and destroy them. It's like, but I think that's why I support Jan and her work, because it's really about us raising our voices. And we have to unify. We have to come together. This is part of our fault. We've been scared and intimidated. Women in the 50s were not empowered. We didn't get money in our own name until the 70s. And so women, and we just lost the Equal Rights Amendment. For God's sake, we lost the Equal Rights Amendment. We did all this work to have that one sentence in the Constitution put in there as the amendment that says women are equal, and now that's been killed. It's like, and where's the outcry? Where's the uprising? Women are like, well, my life is comfortable, so I'm not too worried about it. I go, yeah, but that's because you have white privilege, or you have friends and family that are around you and supporting you. But
Christy, I want to share this. It was in the IJ this morning. And
yeah.
let's see. It says, let's see if I can.
You got your fog thing. You have to put it right in front of your face.
Tell me when you can see it.
No, we can't. It's all fogged out because you got the fog thing going on.
Oh, well, it says white dudes, great big caps, reshaping manhood this election. And it's white dudes for Harris. Call, let's see, call on July 29th. The common wisdom parroted by the media was that most white men support extreme right causes and candidates. Not so fast. We're taking white men back from the MAGA movement. And then it goes on to say there's a whole movement of white dudes for Kamala, for Harris.
Wow.
Yay.
Yay.
$1 million.
There we go. I see it.
Those white
Can you
dudes
see that
were
now?
on a Zoom conference call, and they raised $4 million.
Right.
Right.
Kamala Harris.
Wow.
Yeah.
And they were
Terrific.
so articulate. And I think Walls was on that call. There was people in Hollywood, all across the board, young, older men. It was quite impressive.
Thank the goddess.
Wonderful.
So you all keep doing what you're doing. I am so glad you are all in my life. I so appreciate it. It's been great seeing you, Zoe, come to the different.
Yeah, I really enjoyed hearing you. It was wonderful.
Oh,
And
thank
happy
you.
birthday.
Yeah, most of my friends have heard it over and over and over, but thank you for staying.
Well, I forgot to sign up, I think, and I thought I could just click on the link. Any rate, Michelle ended up calling me and I said she couldn't get in, and Zoe was calling me, she couldn't get in, and so finally
I couldn't get in either.
link, and then I sent it to Zoe, and that's how we were able to get in. But anyway, I want to say, Christy, what I said last night is that such deep gratitude. It is you who have created this community. It is you who brought all of us crazies together with all of our wants and desires, and I want this and I want that. But you have managed to deal with all of our personalities and do this incredible way you have dealing with everybody and holding this thing together and growing it. And it's just, kudos to you, Christy.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Well, it was like I had to go, as they say, Paul Selig says, to the upper room and view everything up above the battlefield. Because
Yes.
there were a few battles, but all in all, in the end, I mean, even my very first ceremony that I ever did, the vision that I had, that I just sat up in bed one morning, and this is 2 weeks after I'm ordained, and I heard, you are going to do an event to honor Mother Mary's consciousness for conceiving light and birthing a God. And I went, I am? I had never done an event. I'd never done a sacred ceremony, everything, but then everything, all the ideas, how to put it together, who to call, who to involve in it, just all came pouring in. And with it came the confidence to do it. So I knew that I could do it. So I started calling Jan, I called, various people. But what was really interesting was it was a very, we were there was some bossy people and whatnot, and we were going back and forth, some bickering that was happening. And I realized that if I'm seeing it on the outside, that's a projection. So obviously there's something in me. So I went into a meditation, and what came up was my old mother. And I realized that, I remember going into a therapist's office one time, and I had gotten a letter from my mother. And I asked the therapist, I said, is this a cold letter? Because I was like a fish in water. I had no idea what a warm mother was like.
Oh.
And so my therapist read the letter, and she said, Christy, this letter is so cold. And it was like, really? But in a way, it was kind of good in the sense that I was detached from it. I wasn't hurt by it, because it was just a letter from my mother, and I loved my mother because I was always singing and dancing and having fun, and then she was being who she was, and I was in total acceptance that this was my mother and this is how it was, and she'd always been like this, and I knew she loved me because she did try to tell me that she loved me, although I don't know that she would say those words per se. But there were other things I could tell that she did, that she was trying to let me know that she did love me. But it was so shocking to find out, yeah, this is a very cold letter, Christy. And I was like, whoa. So.
Christy, you have the amazing ability for who you are to be able to, I mean, many of us have said it, but herd cats, keep all the cats herded somehow, and to do it with such grace and love and honoring of people and respecting everybody and trying to just honor every single person and say to every single person, let's all be in our highest selves now, shall we?
Yeah.
And it was just beautiful, looking back how you've handled it over all these years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was like I was beside myself. I had to do it. So and I was being guided. So, and I of course had so much loving support from all of you. Every one of you gave me so much love and encouragement, and you were always a big yes when I would say, "Okay, this is the vision. This is what I want to do," and you'd always go, "Yes."
My running joke for the last 2 decades is people say, "Well, why'd you say yes?" I go, "Because Christy asked me."
Yeah.
I can't say no to Christy.
Right.
So I have a question for everyone.
Right.
Who has become a better person and doing their work because of Christy Michaels?
Oh, yeah.
I have.
Oh, you guys are so
Christy,
sweet.
that's
Right
a
here.
life
Absolutely.
well lived. Everybody's raising their hand.
Yes.
It's a life well lived. You have had a great amount of effect.
Oh,
I'm a so much better person because of you.
oh, thank you so much. Very
You've
touching.
affected all, I agree. You've affected all of us in such beautiful ways.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You've enriched my life.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, it's been so important to have you all with me because believe me, without all of you, I could not have done any of it. No way.
It takes a
So
village for
it
sure.
does take a village, and thank God everybody was willing to do their little parts and pieces and to perfection. I mean, you all tried so hard to do the very, very best job that you could to do whatever it was you were whatever was your offering. So
Well, the law of attraction really works with you. I mean, you attract these amazing, incredible, magnificent souls. And why is that? Because that's who you are.
thank you. That's very sweet.
So, Christy, I'll give you a quick example. The Queen's Caravan Tour, I did 11 events. And one woman, don't worry, it's not you, Michelle, who perseverated over every word, every image for 3 months, okay? And you and I got on the phone, and in 90 seconds, hey, let's do a mandala. Let's do this. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's just how easy it is to work with you.
Thank you, honey. So grateful. So you know what's coming through now? What's coming through now is we need women who are so grace-filled that their leadership transmits the quality and level of grace that Magdalene was able to do when the disciples were in the room. They did not want her to be there. And Peter becomes, as Levi says, a hothead. And he says, I'm storming out of here. I'm listening to this, because she tries to tell him what her experience was with her vision that she had about Jesus. And he won't have it. He doesn't like it. He doesn't understand it. He's confused. And so he just storms out of the room. But the rest of the disciples stayed, and they leaned in and they listened to her. And the word in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene is she arose from her chair. Now, it's not a word that's used like meaning get up from your chair. It's a word that is used to mean to resurrect your higher self, to bring into full embodied presence the divine that you are. And so then from that place, she spoke to them and she said, the grace will be with you, and the grace has come among you, and the grace will guide you and be with you. And then they went out to spread the gospel. But in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, the sentence goes, they went out to spread the gospel, but to spread the gospel of Mary. So we're going to lead grace-filled trainings. We're all going to be grace keepers, you know. And my middle name is Grace.
Perfect.
And my little 4-year-old granddaughter who carried the Magdalene thing, my daughter gave her my middle name. So she's Ella Rose Grace.
So sweet.
Beautiful.
I think it's the next evolutionary step for us to powerfully become the adjudicators, the neutral priestesses who can rebalance everything just by our presence, no announcements, no ego. Our voices itself are like gold panning to release everybody's fear and apprehension. And that's how the visions that we have on high will be believed and land for people and give hope for something new. And so that's why I work with Kamala's inner psyche and consciousness with remote viewing, so that she as a leader can have these delicate little feelers going into people's hearts where they're not sure why they like her, but it feels so good and right and real.
Yeah.
Dan, I want to join you in that, please. Can we talk?
Okay, next
Me
session,
too.
but I think she's doing good. I think
Well, let's get more of us on, because the more energy, the better.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much. I've taken up so much time, and I'm so
That's okay. It was great time.
it's a party.
It's a party.
Well,
Yeah,
you know,
we're
the
having a
live
party.
interaction is so the best, but I just had to tell my mystical stories because I know some of you didn't know some of
It
them.
was perfect. Absolutely perfect.
Oh, good. Thank you. It's sort of hard to do that, to share at that level, you know, and it's interesting. None of my family came on, so I was a little more free to talk about. I still haven't talked about some of the family secrets, though. That's another time for another year, maybe on my deathbed. I
Write a
don't know.
book. Write a
No,
book.
it was really fun to find out. Well, I've heard a lot of your story, but to find out new things about,
Yeah.
Being the little baby chosen to be the little baby Jesus, and your name is Christy, and it's quite,
Yeah.
you seem to be have born with a little star in you.
Yeah, a little destiny there.
And you're the kind of Leo leader that leads with the heart. So
Yeah.
you're not in
Yeah.
the ego, and you bring everybody else in to do their thing and star, and you just instrument it all, and you provided this vessel for us to all hodgepodge in, and that's quite a that's quite a talent.
Yeah. And it,
That's really a an egoless, heart-led leader. Leo
thank,
leader.
thank you, dear. Thank you. Well, I feel very seen and celebrated and so
Good.
appreciated and so grateful to all of you. So thank you so much. I put the link in for the Kamala video, and as soon as I send out the replay, I'll put so you can listen to Caroluna's brother died,
Oh,
and unexpectedly, and I think it's kind of devastated her. It's like um at first she was a little bit more, but it's as the grieving process is really engaging and being with her. um I think she's had to allow herself to grieve and be pulled
yeah.
back more. So she was going to be on, and she wanted to debut the song. Unless you want me to, I can try and see if I can do it. Would you guys be willing, so I can just at least what she did? Let me just explain to you. So Kamala means lotus, and Devi,
Kamala.
it means Kamala, and it means goddess. So she's the lotus goddess. So because of the Hindu, she played it with the Hindu instrument. And she took the song Kumbaya, but she redid it with the Hindu sounding music, and it's a chant to Kamala,
Wow.
for her. So it's a little different than what you're normally campground. But the thing that she was thinking was, because so many of us went to camp as kids, and we used to sing Kumbaya. And that was also, somebody told me that it was a song that was sung a lot. Was that you, Karen, that told me that was sung a lot during the civil rights
Yeah,
movement?
it was sung during that time.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that pronunciation of her name, it rhymes more like a Pamela. If you can remember Pamela, and that'll give you the right rhythm of pronouncing her name.
Perfect.
Pamela.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Like Camelot.
I was intending to say that earlier.
Pamela.
And I just had one more thing I want to mention, that the indigenous people that were over here before the United States, took over the land, they had mostly a matriarchal society.
Yes.
The women were in charge, so maybe it's time
Yeah.
for that. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
I'm gonna sign off. I'll listen to her music later. So
Okay, great. Thank you, dear.
Happy birthday, Christy.
So let me,
Oh, there she is.
yeah, this is Cara Luna. And this is one of the new logos that have come out.
Oh, yeah, now you can see all of them.
Oh, good.
And this is the end. Let's see. I have to go to the screen sharing stop. I have to screen share to YouTube. So let's see if YouTube is gonna let me play. And hopefully you'll hear the song. Tell me if you hear it, okay? Can you guys hear the music?
Yes. Yes.
Amala Devi, Kamala. Kamala Devi, Kamala, oh Lord, Kamala. Someone sing, Lord, Kamala. Someone singing, Lord, Kamala. Someone singing, Lord, Kamala. Oh Lord, Kamala. Someone's crying, Lord, Kamala. Someone's crying, Lord, Kamala. Someone's crying, Lord, Kamala. Oh Lord, Kamala. Someone's praying, Lord, Kamala. Someone's praying, Lord, Kamala. Someone's praying, Lord, Kamala. Oh Lord, Kamala. Someone's awakening, Kamala. Someone's awakening, Kamala. Someone's awakening, Kamala. Oh Lord, Kamala. Kamala Devi, Kamala. Kamala Devi, Kamala. Kamala Devi, Kamala. Oh Lord, Kamala. Oh Lord, Kamala.
Right.
Christy, how do we find that on YouTube?
I'm sending you the link. It's
Oh,
in the
good.
chat. It's in the chat right now, and it's a hyperlink. So if you open up your chat, you should see it, and then just click on it, and it'll take you right to it. So
I want to send it around.
yeah,
Me too. I want to send it to everyone I know.
yeah,
It's beautiful,
I know.
beautiful. So on YouTube, do they use her name or how do you?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. The name on YouTube is Kamala.
Okay. Kamala.
Yeah, it's just her name. Kamala Levolution is the channel that she's created.
Ah.
It has 134 views, so it'd be nice if it would go viral.
Yeah.
But really, the whole idea that she was saying, and the reason it's done with the Hindu sound and the Hindu tones is, because honoring her Indian heritage, but also the 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 song Kumbaya is something that we all sang as camp girls.
Yeah.
For those of us that did that. And so that is automatically puts us in a heart space. So anyway.
Christy,
Yes,
I gotta
dear.
go because I've got like 5% juice left on my phone.
Okay, honey. Thank
All right,
you.
love you. Happy birthday.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. I look forward to your book.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll send it. You send me your address.
Yes.
All right, bye-bye.
Okay.
I'm
Bye.
going to say goodbye too. Thank
Yes.
you.
Good night, everybody.
Night.
Thank you
Good
so
night.
much. I
Yes.
appreciated it. And I loved your song, Karen. It was great. So
Me too. Fairy
blessings
godmother blessings.
blessings to all of you. Thank you for being such supportive friends. I really